Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie, Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie, Jessica.
So today is our weekly Bestie Book Tea, where we spill all the tea on all the books that we read this week with 1 minute synopses. And I'll figure this out one day. So let's sit back and relax and talk about all the books that Mandy and I read this week. So, Mandy, how many books did you read this week? What was your reading week like?
I read 11 books and I had 2 DNFs.
Which are accounted for in that 11?
No, so that would be 13 if we counted the DNFs, but I don't count those because I didn't finish them. So I completed 11 books and DNF 2, which, just to say, I don't DNF books very often. No. These had just been sitting there on my Goodreads that I was reading them, and I'm like, I need to go give them one more try, and if I can't, I just need to move on. And so that's what I did.
Okay.
How
that
about
makes
you?
Sense. So this week I read 7 books. I was gone for part of the week, so it's a slower week, but I read 7, but 1 was a duet, so technically I have 6 to talk about because we'll lump that duet as 1.
3 of mine will be 1 because they were like little novellas that go in a series.
Mm-hmm. I started a series last night that you read that's a bunch of novellas, so I'm really excited for that one. So,
which one?
The
Masterclass?
Yes, that one, the Masterclass.
What do you think so far?
I'm only on the first chapter.
Oh.
So far, I'm like sucked right on in. So
there are a few times where I'm like, what am I reading? As I like can't stop flipping pages.
I haven't got that far yet, so we'll see how that goes. So, all right, so why don't you start us off with your first book? Oh, wait. But before we get started, because I always forget, before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are still giving away our copy of Elsie Silver's Flawless. This is a signed copy that we have. We will give this when we hit 250 subscribers, and we are like right there. So we're about ready to give this away. And then after that, we will actually have something else for when we hit 500 subscribers. So the giving's continuing at this point until we get to 1K subscribers. Yeah. So we're really excited. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button and make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, because you get an extra entry if you follow us on Instagram, and that is linked down below. So now, Mandy, why don't you start us off?
Okay. I have my timer ready, but my phone fell asleep on me because somebody was taking a long time again.
Shush. You just wait till it's your turn to take too long.
Okay, my first book was Trip by S. Nelson. This is number 4 in the Knight's Corruption MC series. I've been talking about this series a lot lately. I'm absolutely loving it. I actually completed the series this week. So first up is Trip and Reese. So Reese is running from a really bad relationship, like across the country, running from this bad relationship. And she ends up getting a job at Indulge, which the club owns. And it's, of course, a stripper club. And this is kind of out of character for her, but she like ends up in town with like $50 to her name, and that's it. And she left everything behind. So she's like, this is the easiest way I can get money without a lot of questions being asked about me. So she's working there at the club doing her thing, and Trip is there just kind of keeping an eye on stuff, checking in on how the club's doing, and he sees her and he instantly has this attraction, like chemistry type pull to her. And she ends up, man alive, she ends up going to give a customer a private dance in one of the private rooms, and the customer gets really handsy and tries to attack her. And Trip is one of the guys that comes in and rescues her. And when he goes to take her home, he's like, you're not staying in this disgusting, seedy motel that's like pay by the hour. And she's like, it's all I can afford. And he's like, nope, come in with me. And that is how their story starts.
Awesome.
Very good. You would love this series.
Oh, I'm sure I would. It's definitely up there to start reading.
Spark and smut and motorcycle guys, and
they're with motorcycle guys.
Huh?
You had me with motorcycle guys. No. It doesn't take
and
much.
they're like I mean, they do bad stuff, but you can justify it.
Give me any book, I'll justify it. Whatever you're doing in there. Trust me.
Oh, okay. Tell us about your first read.
So my first read was a reread, but I did a reread of Twisted Pride by Cora Riley. I did this because I was in Vegas, like unexpectedly in Vegas this week. And so I was like, I have to read some of my favorite Vegas books. So this is the third book in the Cora Chronicles, and it takes us, obviously we're in Vegas. So this is about Remo Falcone and Serafina. So Serafina is the niece to Dante Cavallaro, and she is getting married. This is on her wedding day. And Remo, who is like the baddest of the bad when it comes to these mafia dons, is he's trying to get back at the Chicago outfit for something that they did to him in one of the previous books. And so he kidnaps Serafina on her wedding day and takes her to Vegas, like runs down the car and kidnaps her and takes her to Vegas. And that is a huge no-no in the whole like mafia world. You don't attack women and you don't attack a wedding day. It's supposed to be sacrilegious to do that, but he does it because Remo makes up his own rules and his own things. And this is their story. You know, he's the hard bad guy. He's so bad. Like he's the worst of the worst, but she's his angel. So we'll see. You know, I'm dying for you to read these, but I had to because I was in Vegas. I got that call and said, "Hey, you want to go to Vegas this week for a jewelry show for overnight?" And I was like, "Yeah, now I have to read my Vegas books." So,
I need to read that. It's actually, that's what I should just read next. I'm kind of stuck on what to read next.
You're stuck. Yeah, you really need to because they're the best out of the ones that I've read of Cora's. They're my favorites. So yeah. Okay, next.
So my next book is Writer, which is the final number 5 and the final book in the Knight's Corruption MC series. This is about Ryder and Braylon. We've seen both characters throughout the series, but now it's time for their story. Ryder has some major trauma in his life, and it has led to him having some pretty horrific nightmares. And the book actually starts out with Braylon waking up with Ryder attacking her in his sleep and almost like choking her. And he finally wakes up and he's pretty horrified about what happened, and it freaks her out too. And this kind of sets their relationship on a different course of like her being like, you need to get some help. Like, you need to figure this out. I don't know that I feel safe around you. And he's like, but I love you. And so it just kind of forces him to have to deal with some things. And then this book also completely wraps up the series. I was so excited. The epilogue actually goes through all the characters that have been in the series. So you get to kind of see where they're at. And then there's also a spinoff, which is The Next Generation. So I'm excited to get started on that series too.
Cool. I'm excited. I need to read those. So.
You do.
I do. I really do. So I continued with my rereads. Last week we were talking about the last writers, and I was reading those. So I just continued on. So these are not very long. These are just over 200 pages. There is audio. It was just easy for me to do. So this is Knox's Stand. So this is about Knox and Diamond. So Knox is like the big club enforcer. This is an MC club, by the way. He is this big, bald, bad dude, but he gets accused of a murder that he swears he is innocent of. And Diamond, so he's an ex-Navy SEAL, if I believe. I believe he was Navy. Yep, former Navy SEAL. But Diamond is his lawyer, and she grew up in a club, in a rival club. Her parents are a part of the MC, and she wants nothing to do with it. She wants to be seen as this serious lawyer. She and Knox cannot stand each other at all, and it's her job to prove that he's innocent. And so this is their story. And it's, you know, the club has like this survival business where they make supplies for survivalists, and Diamond has this thing where I think at one point she talks to him about like buying an island in case of a zombie apocalypse, and she is serious. Like, she starts hoarding all of their supplies and stuff. The girl's paranoid, but it's great. I love it. So yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Have you got this far? You got this far when you were reading it, right?
I think so.
Did you get to Shade's book?
I think that's the really long one, right?
Later. The first one isn't the big, like later on it is.
I think I'm at the really long one and I'm like, eh.
Yeah. Okay.
And I took a break.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd have to go back and look. It's on my list from my May TBR of reading like series, which I knew in May I wouldn't get through all the series I wanted to finish, obviously. So it's something I'm still working on.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, my next book is called It Seemed Like a Good Idea at the Time. This is by Kylie Scott. Kylie Scott is a go-to Audible author for me. I really enjoy her books, listening to them on Audible, and she always has really good narrators for those as well. So this was a 4-star for me. This is father's friend slash employee slash age gap of 15 years book. So this is about Adele and Pete, and it's told in flashbacks. So you kind of get what happened throughout the story as what's currently happening throughout the story. And they were friends. So when she's 16, she comes to stay with her father, and her father kind of pawns her off onto Pete. And Pete takes her places because he feels bad for her having to just sit at her dad's construction work site all day. And her dad's like a major workaholic. So he'll be like, oh, I'm going to the beach. You can come with me, like that sort of stuff. And they become really good friends through this. And so when she turns 18, she mistakes that friendship for more because she has a major crush on him. And she's like, well, I'm 18. So like on her actual 18th birthday, at her birthday party, she goes for it, starts stripping, much to Pete and her father's horror. So this is 7 years later when she comes back to town.
Okay. Man, that girl's got some balls. Because at 18, I was not about to strip for anybody. At all. Okay.
I think she was trying to like prove I'm a woman now.
Mm-hmm.
Takes her top off. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So my next read was a duet. So this is the pageant duet by Lilith Vincent. This is reverse harem, but this is about Lilia. They're very Russian names for all these. So Lilia is our heroine, and then our, I guess you would call them our anti-heroes, are Elia and Kirill and Constantine, or they call him Kosta. But anyhow, this is about Lilia. She is a model. She's 20 and she's in Milan for Fashion Week, and she gets abducted by these 3 Russian guys. They have 16 women in a basement, like in cells. And Kosta is the head of the mafia. He's the head of the Russian Bratva here. And he's decided that he is going to hold a beauty pageant of a sorts. And whoever wins that is going to become his wife. And he has this gorgeous pink diamond crown to crown the woman to be his wife. But when Lilia wakes up, she realizes that one of the guys she has a history with. And it's not a good history. And so we go from there. So this is a duet. It was really good. I gave it 5 stars for the first book, 4.5 for the last book. There was a couple parts where I kind of got a little bored in the last book, but I still loved it. The whole thing. So.
Okay. So Jessica, my next book was weird. I was at Barnes and Noble with my son, and this book just like jumped into my hand as
Funny how that happens.
Going to the checkout counter with my son.
Yeah. Funny how that happens.
I know. I feel bad for all my other books on my shelf that I haven't read yet, and I just keep bringing new ones home.
They're inanimate objects. They don't realize. Okay.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
But the funny part of my story is that when I got home, my son actually corroborated my story and told my husband it's true. Like the book just jumped right off the shelf.
Was that your youngest?
Yes.
Yeah. He is quite the partner in crime, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So my next book is Beg You to Trust Me by B. Celeste. This is number 2 in the Linden U series, but I just started with it and I didn't really feel confused about anything, but I do want to go back and read some of the first one for this. So this is about Danny and Skylar. Skylar is shy. She has like some serious social anxiety. She has 3 older sisters that it kind of seems like they were the spotlight, and she just kind of was, in the background a little bit. So she decides to move across the country to go to college to try and find her footing and kind of get out from her sister's shadows, if that, kind of makes sense. And she reluctantly goes to a frat party with her roommate, and her roommate is like a bitch and bullies her. Like she's just horrible. And she reluctantly goes to this party with them, and they all promise to stick together, which her roommate obviously does not do, because Skylar wakes up the next morning in a bed at the frat house. She has no memory of how she ended up in the bed, what happened, but she realizes that she's no longer a virgin, and she doesn't remember anything. And then Danny, who's a very popular football guy on campus, ends up befriending her. And this is that story. It's really good. I enjoyed it. You might not because it's like college football and stuff, but if you like that sort of thing, check this book out. It is a little bit longer though.
Okay.
Okay, ready, Jessica?
I am so ready. So I continued on doing my reread of all of the last writers. So the next book up was Shades. This is actually my favorite out of all of them. I love Shade and Lily. The one that you were thinking about, Mandy, it kind of revisits a lot of the things that happen throughout the books. And so I can see why it would drag a little bit. But this one is the first one about Shade and Lily. So Shade is the enforcer. Shade is the not the enforcer. Shade is the sniper in the group, and we know that he was a sniper at one point in time in the military, and he's covered in tattoos, and he is like the mysterious bad boy in the group. And then you have Lily, who is the adopted sister to our heroine from the first book, and she has been through trauma, but we don't know what the trauma is. She doesn't even really remember what the trauma is, and she has a lot of issues and a lot of hangups, but she knows what she wants in a guy. She wants this rugged cowboy. I mean, don't we all? But that is not what Shade is. And Shade can see that she's hurting. Shade can see that there's something not quite right, that she's had this trauma, and he tries to help her move past all of that. And this is their story. It's just, I love the way Shade loves Lily. That's just, I do. I love the way Shade loves Lily.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my next book is called Hosed by Pippa Grant and Lily Valentine. Valente, is that how you say it?
I think it's Valente.
Yeah, I think it is too. It's Happy Cat number 1. And this was a 4-star read for me. This is like firefighter, virgin next door. So it's Cassie and Ryan and George Clooney, the raccoon, who kind of steals the book in times. So Cassie, she's a virgin. She moves into her sister's house to take over her sister's sex toy factory company because her sister had a really bad marriage breakup and has just left town. So she's coming to town as a favor to her sister to kind of keep things running until her sister can kind of get back on her feet and come back. And so she's running the factory, and Ryan is the hot firefighter next door. And she has had a major crush on him when she was in high school, but he kind of broke her heart a little bit. And he is still like really is attracted to Cassie as well. So there's some instant sparks there as their relationship starts to develop. But while all this is going on, somebody is not happy about the sex toy factory and Happy Cat. Happy Cat's the name of the town, and is sabotaging it. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. You know, you'd think if you were just divorced that being in a sex toy factory is exactly what you need.
She is kind of humiliated because her husband cheated on her in not a really great way.
Well, your favorite friend is not going to cheat on you, so just take it with you, I guess. You know, although it might die, and then you feel cheated.
Next.
Oh, Mandy. Okay, so my next read was the last Chance Omega by Grace McGinty. This is a novella, and it is kind of, I think it's supposed to be kind of like a prequel to her Omegaverse that she has, which I love the next book in it, but this one came after that first one. Anyhow, this is about Zaylee, and she wakes up in the wilderness in Canada. She's a student in Anchorage, and she wakes up in the wilderness in Canada outside of her hometown, naked and presenting as Omega, because this is Omegaverse. And so she freaks out, and she calls the only number that she can. Her phone is almost dying. It's getting cold out. She's dug herself like a hole to stay warm, and she has a feral cat sleeping on her chest. Like, it is just like this crazy situation. So she calls one of her best friends, who she hasn't heard or seen from, or heard or seen anything from them since she was 18, and he actually answers his phone, and him and his brothers come to rescue her. And he is a triplet. These boys left town when she was 18 overnight without telling her anything, and it was right after one of them took her virginity. So this is what happens with that. They're all alphas, by the way. They presented as alphas. I dropped my pen. I have to get my pen. Hold on. I'm back.
Okay, so my next book, before I get started, I was just going to tell you, I read Happy Place, which was part of my Once Upon a Book Club. So That is the one where
The
you
one
get
that
the
you
little
open.
presents and stuff as you read
Oh,
it.
what's that?
It was so much fun. I actually really enjoyed it. I got my second one, and I wish I would have started sooner because I just got my second one. I'm like, ooh, I need to start this one now. So I'm going to actually do a little short on that. I don't have all the editing done for it, but I will get that up shortly. The short will be up shortly.
Love it. Okay.
Okay, so my read, as I said, is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is a story of friendship, but it's also a story of a couple who is broken up and they don't want to tell their friend group yet because it's about 6 friends who meet in college and eventually they kind of all couple up. So there's 6 of them, but they're all couples. And Harriet and Wynn end up breaking up, but Harriet doesn't want to tell them because then that makes it real. Wynn just hasn't for whatever reason, and they end up going back to Maine. And one of the couples surprises them with the fact that the cottage is being sold and they're not going to get to go there anymore. And this other couple is going to get married. So Harriet and Wynn don't want to disrupt like this last week together with this wedding. So they agree to continue to pretend to be together. So it's a story of friendship as people get older and things change, but it's also them pretending to be together while they still actually really care for one another, but yet they're broken up. So I don't know if I would have picked this up to read it if I hadn't gotten it in the Once Upon a Book Club, but I'm actually really glad that I did read it. It was a really good read. Different from what I normally read, but it's like more chick lit, like you would call it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. My last read is the last one that I wanted to read in the MC Romance series. So this one is actually number 8. I skipped over a couple of them. I mean, I've read them, but I skipped over them this time when I was doing a reread. So this is Winter's Touch. So this is about Winter and Viper. They were the hero and heroine from our second book in this series. This is just a small little snippet of their life later on. So if you remember me talking about it last week, Winter was hurt in an attack and she couldn't walk for quite a bit of time during that book. And so now we fast forward several years later. They're all happy. They have this relationship. Winter wants a baby. Okay. She's worked with kids her whole life. Like she wants a baby, but it's very dangerous for her to have a baby. And so she and Viper have talked about it. And Viper's like, no, I'm not willing to sacrifice you. And because of an incident, she ends up actually getting pregnant and then they move forward with it. And there's a lot of animosity. There's a lot of things that come up because she gets pregnant and she's not supposed to be. So this is their story about that. So I really like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all your books?
That is all my books.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and tell you about my next read.
Mm-hmm.
You need to read it. So everybody needs to read this. It's called The 16th Need by Cala Reed. It's her brand new release, just came out about a week ago. It's about Sable and Sam. And in case you didn't know, it is a 5-star read, a favorite for me for the year.
Shocker.
I loved it. So good. So this is a theme with my books this week. It's also told in flashbacks plus present day. So Sable and Sam go to the same high school, but they are very different. Sable grows up in just a horrific environment. She grows up in a single wide trailer with a drug addict, drunk mom. Her and her 3 sisters all share one bedroom. They're the ones that pay the bills. They take care of each other. And it's so good. But Sam, of course, grows up in a much more normal environment with a mom, a dad, a little sister. You know, he has the things that he needs. He's not like an arrogant guy, though. He's actually very kind and he needs a tutor. So Sable starts tutoring him to help him pass. He's a year older than Sable. So when he goes off to college, that creates some things as well, which we see throughout the book. And it is just an incredibly great story that wrong tracks and, you know, they meet because of the tutoring, but it does not feel like a cliche at all. You know, that overdone trope where, you know, the girl has to tutor the football player. It's not like that at all. Like nothing like that. Incredibly good. You must read it. Everyone. Okay, so let's just get this out. My 2 DNFs. Okay. And as I said, I've been one of these was from like March, and I went back and tried to read it again, and I'm like, I couldn't do it. So I DNF'd it. It was Love Beyond Time by Bethany Clare. It is a time travel romance. They go back to Scotland, I think, and it was third person and I couldn't get into it, and there was just too much ye and all that stuff, and I could not get into the third person aspect of it.
No.
And then this one shocked me a little bit. It was Starry-Eyed Love by Helena Hunting. Could not get into it either. It's part of the Spark Sisters series. And I guess I was expecting like the writing to be more like Pucked. Not that you're ever going to write a character like Violet again. Violet is super unique. But I've read a lot of the Puck series, so like she can write without having a character like Violet. So I was just really surprised I could not get into that. And so I did DNF it. Maybe someday I'll go back and try and read it again because I love her. But this book, for whatever reason, was a miss for me. So I just didn't finish it.
There's far too many good books out there to worry about whether or not. I mean, like if you don't like it, then move on. It's all good.
Yeah. But normally she's like a 4 or 5 star author for me. So I don't know.
Things don't work.
Yeah.
So
okay. And then my last read is 3 books, but they're short novellas and they're like a continuation. So it's not a trilogy because I think there's more books coming, but they're extremely short. And it's called Stepdaddy Lesson.
Oh my goodness.
So there's lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3. This is about Nick and Esther, and I actually had to go back in the book to find out what his name was because the only time his actual name is used is when it's his chapter and it's his point of view because she calls him Daddy.
Yeah, she does.
So Esther has grown up in a very religious, controlling home environment, and her mom ended up leaving her dad. And the kids chose to stay with their dad. Well, their dad passes away, so they're under their grandma's very strict rules. So when she turns 18, she decides to go visit her mom. And so when she goes to visit her mom, she meets her stepdad. And of course, even though her mom knows she's coming, mom is out of town for work. So what is stepdad to do with his very naive stepdaughter? But give her some lessons. And lessons he gives. I can't believe I read it.
I can't believe you did either. Just the title of the book would have been enough for me to be like, no, that's okay.
I blame Kindle because when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to read yesterday, and I started 2 books, and they wouldn't be DNFs. I didn't even get very far. I'm just like, I'm not feeling this. Like, and I'm sure someday I will want to read them. It just wasn't clicking right then. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, what am I going to read? And nothing like already on, like the 27 books already on my Kindle weren't doing it for me apparently. Mm-hmm. And then Kindle's like, you know how if you go back to the homepage, it gives you recommendations. That's where I found lesson 1. So yeah, that's what happened.
There's times you need to be very leery of those recommendations. Just so you know.
It was a fun time.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. Mandy's fun time there. Okay. So that is all that we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching.
Make sure to check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us.
And we will see you in the next one.